Hello and welcome to the Aftershock with Jamon Moore, Alex Morgan, and Phillip Leyva here, live at PayPal Park. Quakes get a 1-0 win against the Colorado Rapids. We're going to go right into the initial thoughts after the match. Jamon, we're going to kick it over to you first. Let's hear your thoughts.
Well, the Quakes were in control of this one from the very beginning. I think if you want to say, like, what is the prototypical type of Luchi Gonzalez game that he would like to play, I'm pretty sure it looks kind of like the game tonight. There really wasn't a time where the Quakes felt super threatened. And they were always challenging the back line if they weren't really able to put on, I think, the type of close range shots that he would prefer. But Christian Espinoza got robbed by William Yarborough on a shot in the first half. I mean, that ball was a screamer to the upper corner, and Yarborough got a finger on it to push it to the crossbar. But the second time, yeah, nothing he could do as it careens off of a knee and into the back of the net. But that was another screamer too. I mean, Christian knows how to hit them hard if they don't always go in the back of the net. Tonight, he got one in the back of the net.
Yeah, and there were kind of a lot of those types of sequences we saw throughout the match, right? And it was the sequence prior to the Espinoza goal that really, they had a lot of that sort of build up throughout, and it was the payoff that they were really looking for that Espinoza provided. Alex, your initial thoughts after the match?
Look, the Earthquakes are building momentum now. You had the loss against Atlanta United, where they played well, but they lost. You had the last week's game against Vancouver, where they won, but they struggled as much. This was a game in which they played really well and they won. This game felt like it connected all the pieces. They were in control. They were dominant. They looked good on the ball. And then Christian Espinoza was the difference maker. He's now been involved in all three of San Jose's goals from an open play this season. He had that screamer that rocketed off the crossbar in the first half, and then a lucky shot there in the second half to win it for San Jose. That right side looks really dangerous. Mm-hmm. With Carlos Acapo and Christian Espinoza there, could be one of the most dangerous right wings in Major League Soccer. I was really, really impressed with the way that they played tonight. And we've seen Christian Espinoza start to get more credit from some of the national media. That's a good thing because he's one of the best value DPs in Major League Soccer.
Right, his passing ability. There was an article on MLS Soccer about that in The Athletic. They're also, there's a lot of noise going on in regard to the San Jose Earthquakes. We did talk after the last match about how the defensive shape that Luchi is putting out there with this team and how they are showing a sense of knowing exactly what to do when they lose possession, how that was going to open up a lot of opportunities for the attack. And I think we saw that quite a bit during this match. From my perspective, watching the match from up above, I was over just behind the Ultras actually for a large part of the match. And I was taking a really close look at the left side of the defense. And oftentimes when the Rapids had the ball and they were attacking on that side, they just had no ideas past the midfield. Like there was nothing happening. And we all kind of know how Kevin Cabral plays when he's in that role. I mean, he's been kind of an issue for any attack that he's played for in Major League Soccer. Struggled with the LA Galaxy. We saw some of that similarly here with the Rapids. But overall, I think the defensive integrity that we saw from the team really kept them from showing anything offensively. Let's talk a little bit more about the defensive structure that we saw during this match. Jamon, looking at Carlos Acapo here, he does get subbed out eventually, but what were you seeing from him from your perspective, and how is he adding to the not only the defense, but allowing for the offense to kind of get more involved in the play?
One of the things that I'm noticing about Acapo so far, and you guys could probably see it a lot better than I can from the Apple TV, but I mean, MLS Season Pass looks gorgeous, and it's just so wonderful to get to hear home radio announcers. I got to experience that tonight for the first time, so that was a lot of fun. But one of the things I noticed with Acapo is he always seems to be in the right place of where he needs to be able to help in any type of situation, whether it's defensively or offensively. His positioning and knowledge of where to be looks really good. I have to believe that now that he's at least 60 minutes fit, this is why he got the starting nod tonight, because, sometimes Paul Marie, we love him. He puts in a ton of effort. He's a workhorse, best probably defensive player on both sides of the ball last year for the Earthquakes. but sometimes he has the propensity to maybe commit too much into certain situations and not think about what happens if he doesn't come away with the ball, or if he charges forward and helps in the attack, what does the rest defensive structure look like behind him in case the attack doesn't pan out? And what I'm seeing with Akapo so far, at least, is in the vast majority of situations, he calibrates correctly the situation. And so that right side is always in a position to be able to attack. We saw a lot of great combination play on that right side. Akapo's in the mix. Espinoza's in the mix. Yule's in the mix. Sometimes Montero comes over and he's in the mix. Guerrero sometimes comes in. He's in the mix. And the Quakes are always trying to overload on that side. And I think Akapo just kind of gets that type of situation and what to do if they lose the ball, and gets it just a little bit quicker. And with a little bit less, I don't know, potential danger than Paul Marie does. That's just my sense from getting to watch him tonight.
And so over on the other side of the pitch, looking at the other fullback position, Miguel Trauco, we saw him get into the attack quite a bit as well, and we saw that defensive coverage from Rodriguez on the left side of the center back pairing. But one thing that I think really stood out to me was that as Trauco moved forward, he also allowed for them to have more of the variance in their attack. And actually on the Espinoza goal, it was Trauco who stepped up and made the defensive play, right, to get that started. So Alex, we're talking a bit about, the back line, and you mentioned Akapo, how that could be one of the best pairings on a wing with Christian Espinoza. What about on the other side of the pitch with Miguel Trauco and Cade Cowell?
Look, I think I have to swallow my words because throughout preseason and early this season, I've been skeptical of Akapo and Trauco. Last week on the show, I don't think they played particularly well. And we talked about how we, we're skeptical of those signings, which were made at a weird time last season. And it felt like both of them were struggling to adapt and get caught up to speed. Tonight erased those doubts for me. Tonight was two really strong performances from Akapo and Miguel Trauco. Both of them added so much going forward. They were both pushing into the middle a lot and had really strong combinations. And defensively, they were really solid as well. I think the thing that stood out about Akapo is that awareness defensively and just the decision-making that he has. His head constantly scanning, in the composure when he get on the ball to take a touch, pick his head up, and make the right play. That added a lot for San Jose's build-up. It made it so that they were able to build out of the back really quickly, get a bunch of combinations, and launch forward. So they both played really, really well tonight. And that's super important for San Jose because, those fullback positions aren't somewhere where we've had a ton of depth over the last 4 or 5 years. But those two guys had standout performances tonight. And look, they had more time on the ball tonight. Colorado Rapids, excuse me.
The Rapids. Is there much difference at this point?
They weren't pressing the way that we saw Vancouver pressing, or even the way Atlanta were pressing. So Akapo and Trauco had more time on the ball. They had more space to pick their head up and make those passes. So I think it's worth saying that. But they did really, really impress me tonight. And I think Akapo earned that starting spot for sure.
One thing we didn't really talk about was like the thing that happened at the end of the match. I'm just thinking about, moving up into the midfield position. I'm thinking about Cade Cowell and how he was combining with Trauco, but Jamon Montero getting the red card at the end of the match. I mean, we were all looking at each other in the press box, like what exactly happened. And I had to go back and look at the replay to kind of get an idea. Now, Jamon, maybe you have better insight than we do. The only thing that I was able to see was that there was a hand to the face over by the corner flag right in front of the official. So that was maybe the one thing that could have happened. Otherwise, I mean, Jamiro was the first to jump in and say something to the actual head referee. So I don't know, Jamon, did you see something that we didn't catch?
Yeah, so what we saw on Apple TV was, Tommy, and there was still a lot of stuff going on after Jack Price and Tommy kind of got into it there. And the TV was kind of focused more on that. But, what we got to see on the replay was that Miro put a hand out and pushed, and it was like here, but it slid up. And so it went from top of the chest to looking like a throat pull. It was not intentional. It was probably just because of just slipperiness right here. The hand looked like it just slid up. And so I think if you go back and take a close look at that replay, I think they're going to see that it wasn't intentional. It was a push that was to the chest. And, I don't think like if they thought that he was trying to like grab the throat, that's not what happened. So it depends on exactly why they gave the red. Do they give red because of contact to the neck, or do they give it because it looked like a choke? If they gave it because it looked like a choke, I'm pretty certain when they go back and they look at that again, that it might get overturned. If I'm the Quakes, there's a good chance I'm appealing that. I'm going to probably see what the referees say where the root cause there for the red. But if I'm the Quakes, I'm probably thinking about an appeal so that we got, they have Miro for next week against St. Louis.
Look, that was the softest red card I've seen in a long time. Jamon and I have had more violent confrontations in the snack line in the press box.
Totally true. Totally true.
The foul by Jack Price, the initial foul was infinitely worse than anything Jamir Montero did afterwards, and it should be rescinded. It should clearly be rescinded. I'm a little worried it won't be rescinded because there clearly was contact. So it's not like the foul didn't exist, but there obviously just wasn't the violent intent or aggression that warranted a red card. It was incredibly soft call.
And I wonder how they're going to look at that, right? Like, is there indisputable evidence that he didn't exactly, like something that's going to refute the call? That's what I'm wondering. Because if you go back and watch the footage from Apple TV, you don't exactly see his hand go into the neck or into the face. You kind of just see it push up, and then you kind of get the behind shot. So you don't quite see exactly what's happening there.
And I'm going to see, actually, we are allowed to submit questions to the referee for 3 questions as an MLS pool reporter. So I'm going to do that now and see if we can get an explanation from the referees about what they saw, because what they write in their post-match report will determine whether this is something that they can rescind or not, depending on what the ref said they saw.
Yeah. And just another thing, I'm looking over at the chat right now, and I'm seeing a lot of folks talk about who is going to be the one to replace Jamon Montero, if the red card is not rescinded. And so I don't know, Jamon, what are your initial thoughts on that? Like, is there somebody who comes to mind first for you for who would be the best option to replace Montero, considering injuries and who the Quakes currently have in their depth chart?
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like an opportunity for if Luchi sees Tommy Thompson as a central midfielder rather than an outside back, or thinks that he can just bring a lot of value there, even if it's not his primary position, it might be an opportunity to play Tommy Thompson because you are going into, a hostile environment. Tommy's experience in playing, at least starting in half the games over the last 4 seasons or so, really kind of gives him, I think, a leg up going into a hostile environment like that. Looks like we're going to be going to Luchi right now. So let's hold that and talk to Luchi. Now, I apologize. Right now, we're not hearing Luchi, and you're not hearing Luchi, so he's not talking. I think he's starting to talk now. So let's go back and see if we can get him.
Thankful that Christian got one through and on a good play and offensive transition that got in under the post. So credit to the boys, proud of them, and again the fans a great home turnout to push us, give us energy, and we want to give that back in terms of our performance.
Thank you, Coach. Next up, Bobby Rangel.
Congratulations on the win, Coach. Again, you touched a little bit about it last week on Christian Espinoza being so influential to this team. Elaborate a little bit, if you can, on how influential he was for this match. Thank you.
I mean, Christian is a workhorse. You see it every ball, every play, every second, every inch matters to him. And what a great leader in terms of just intensity, and he trains this way. It's unbelievable. Just a great player to coach, great mentality. Yes, he's very talented, obviously, but he makes that talent count because of his mentality to work hard and work for his teammates.
Thank you. Let's try Jamon Moore now. Jamon, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Luchi. Thanks for the time today. Congratulations on the win. It felt like a game that you had, good control of for most of the match. I don't even believe gave up a shot on goal. If there's a game that would kind of typify what you want to see, is this the type of game? Is this a good example of the type of game that you'd like to see every week from the team, where they can kind of control top to bottom, stay solid defensively, as well as test the back line and create opportunities? Thank you.
Muted.
Yeah, I certainly want to grab the positives and use them as references and what some of the things we did well. But every game is going to be different. Every team we face will be a different challenge with different style of play, different personnel, and this is a really diverse league. And anybody can beat anybody on any given night. So I know that well through the years on and off the field in the league. I thought tonight we did from the beginning. Play with good tempo. We put good pressure on the ball collectively and together. A few times when the press broke, I thought we were good to recover centrally and get behind it with all 11 players, and then build pressure again when we were together, and then create some offensive transition after winning the ball after a press. So I like that aspect of it. I thought it was a good reference for what we can do in terms of mid-block to high press, but like I said, every game's going to be a different challenge. And offensively, even though possession was in our favor, that doesn't guarantee winning games. We want to value the ability to create goal scoring opportunities over possession, and I'm glad we were able to also complement the possession with creation and creating danger. And we're thankful that one went through, and we kept defensively the shutout, and that's always positive to know how to win a game 1-0. So. Again, congrats to our guys, and let's grab it. And now we got a tough game next week. St. Louis is a team that's scored a good amount of goals, and they've got a new stadium, a new community behind this team with excitement, and we know it's going to be a big challenge. And losing right now, we got to analyze the situation with the play there at the end with the red card, and we'll see if that stays or not. But at the end of the day, we want everybody available for that game, but this team has the mentality to step up and next man up. So, excited now to move forward and get ready to play against a good team in St. Louis.
Thank you. Let's take a couple more. Next up, Marco Yukovic.
Hi, Luchi. Once again, congratulations on the victory. You guys were generating chances in that first half. You guys weren't able to capitalize. So as the match went forward and the longer it was going scoreless, did you fear that with all the way you guys were dominating with the chances that this was going to end up in a tie? And how relieved were you when Espinoza did score late in the match there? Thanks.
Yeah, look, you saw me celebrate it. Definitely happy for him and the team to find the goal because it wasn't easy. Colorado defended well. Look, had we not scored and if it ended up tied, I still would have been proud in how we tried to play and the identity we want to keep build and progress with the team. It's a long season. It's really early, and I want to make sure that we grab trying to do the right things in terms of a performance defensively and offensively. So, of course, I would have been disappointed if had we not scored the game winner, but would have grabbed the positive, been proud of the guys to play the way we've been training in preseason and go from there. Because if we can do that more often, I think the points can bounce your way.
Let's go ahead and take a second one from Alex Morgan.
Hi, Luchi. Thanks for taking another question. I want to ask about Carlos Acapo, making his first start tonight. Looked like a lot of good connections down that right side with Christian Espinoza. What did you make of his performance? What were some of the strengths and some of the things he can improve on?
Yeah, look, this is Carlos's first start in, I want to say, 8 or 9 months. And he's been working really hard to build fitness, build rhythm. And he earned that start. He's got good competition with his teammates. And, we still need to keep building his fitness, his confidence, and his rhythm, and for him and the team. But yeah, proud of him to just be a great teammate and work hard and show a positive performance, getting up the field, getting crosses, combining, and defensively being tenacious, winning physical duels, recovering, and defending the box. So he'll keep building and learning about this league and helping this team and competing with this team.
Thank you, Luchi. This question comes from Harold Gutman from the San Jose Mercury News. His question is, Christian Espinoza is known for more of his assists. So what is it like for him to have 2 really big shots, one being the goal and the other one that hit the crossbar from long distance?
Yeah, look, he's lethal with his right foot in terms of a cross or a shot. Can we get him opportunities to get more shots? That's something we want to keep working on. Also with his left foot, he's good at cutting inside and scoring with his left as well. He showed that in preseason. So yeah, really proud of him and a player that, like I said earlier, just relentless in his energy and his mentality. And then when he's got a little bit of space and he can get a shot or a cross, we know he can create issues. So we want to keep doing that. And but yeah, any shot he takes and puts it on target, even if it's right at the goalkeeper, it's dangerous. It could be a rebound or it could knuckle, slip through. So we want to do that more often.
And one final one in Spanish by Paula Maruri.
Muy buenas noches, felicitaciones por la victoria. Mi pregunta es la siguiente: ¿cómo la contribución y la posición de cada jugador impactaron el resultado de este encuentro? ¿Y qué piensa del golazo de de Christian Espinoza y sobre todo de la consistencia y del no darse vencido, estar buscando ese gol todo el partido? Muchísimas gracias, buenas noches.
Gracias, Paula. Mira, muy orgulloso de los chicos. Jugaron un partido muy bueno en posesión, en penetración, en romper líneas y atacar. El primer tiempo nos faltaba más volumen, ¿no? De cruces y disparos al arco. Los disparos no fueron al arco. Y hablamos del segundo tiempo, seguí jugando nuestro juego como el primer tiempo, pero mejorar el volumen de los cruces y los disparos que sean más peligrosos al arco y podemos estar listos para una pelota viva como rebote. Y tenemos la calidad como grupo, el talento para ser más peligroso. Y bueno, gracias que el disparo de Christian entró. El grupo, para mí, pienso que el bloque defensivo bien y con momentos de buena presión e intensidad para ganar la pelota. Y cuando rompieron la presión, me gustó que recuperamos detrás de la pelota y nos pusimos compactos para presionar de nuevo o sacar al equipo. Ofensivamente, como comenté, muy buen gol de Christian, es muy peligroso en sus cruces, sus disparos, pierna derecha e izquierda. Y tenemos que seguir encontrando que él esté en espacios para tener esas oportunidades, para ayudar al equipo. Pero mira, muy sólido el performance, el reto siempre queremos ganar, ¿no? Los puntos, pero más importante es nuestro proceso, nuestras acciones, intenciones, cómo queremos jugar y ahí más orgulloso que los 3 puntos es que cómo tratamos de jugar y queremos seguir en eso con un partido muy difícil contra St. Louis la próxima semana, que no han perdido y queremos reconocer eso y estar listos.
All right, thank you, Luchi. Thank you, everyone. We'll be bringing forward Christian Espinoza momentarily.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Well, lots to talk about Carlos Acapo here, and that was, considering your question, Alex, about where the improvements need to be. The one thing that Luchi mentioned was the fitness. That was like the one thing, which actually it shows that's probably the only thing at this point, because like you said, his combination play with Christian Espinoza was so strong. So I'm curious about some of your thoughts about what Luchi had to say about Acapo's performance.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Acapo at 100%, because clearly he's not there at 100% yet. I mean, Luchi said this is his first start in 7-8 months. First start in a professional soccer game. So he's not there yet. That's why he played 60 minutes tonight. But once he gets there, I think he's going to be a pivotal part of this defense, because he played really well tonight. I thought that was a really sober and helpful analysis of the game. I appreciate his turtleneck. It felt like we were talking to Steve Jobs on the post-match presser with the black turtleneck. We promised we'd bring some sartorial analysis to everyone tonight. So there you go. It seems like he's adjusting well to the Bay Area with the choice in turtleneck. But I thought his analysis was exactly right, because he acknowledged this was a good performance. It was a solid win. But the thing that he said they need more of, especially in the first half, is volume. Is the volume of chances, is keeping the intensity and the pressure high in order to beat them, 2-3, 4-0. Seattle Sounders, opening day of the season, beat Colorado Rapids 4-0. In order for the Quakes to take the next jump to be a team that's really at the top of the Western Conference, they need to be putting the ball in the back of the net, creating a higher volume of chances and keeping the intensity consistently high, because it felt like the Quakes started with really high intensity, created a couple really solid chances, and then it kind of petered away throughout the game. And this is a Colorado team that hasn't scored yet. It's been 3 games. They haven't scored. So the Quakes really should be beating them by 2-3 goals. I think that's the team that the Quakes can be. And so I thought that was a really helpful analysis from Luchi.
So that's interesting that you pointed that out. The score line with the Seattle Sounders versus the Colorado Rapids versus the score line with the Earthquakes against the Rapids. One thing I noticed about the Quakes is that, yes, they come into this match with a very solid, defensive form, something that's much different from what we saw in the Matias Almeida era, right? Where we saw a lot more of the players chasing after the ball. Jamon, I remember last season, that's something that you pointed out that was really problematic with the Quakes shape defensively, was because players were always running back to try to figure out where they're supposed to be. We're not quite seeing that as much here with what Luchi has them set up doing. The question I have for you, though, is what is it going to take for the Earthquakes to have those higher score lines like Alex just mentioned, considering that they are getting settled in well with this defensive shape? What is it going to take moving forward for them to score more goals against other MLS opponents?
Yeah, let me answer John Jay's question about why we don't ask that in a post-game press conference. It's because the more appropriate time to ask it's going to be in the midweek press conference. So for the post-game press conference, we're going to talk about this particular game, and he chose to comment on St. Louis. That's up to him, but it's not typically a question we're going to ask. We'll focus on St. Louis midweek. We'll certainly ask that question midweek and let everyone know what we get out of the press conference. But to come back to
if the red card's rescinded,
if the red card's rescinded, it may not be a question at all. So if I take a look at the expected goals in this particular one. According to MLSsoccer.com's totals, They got the Quakes at 1.5 and 0.4. This feels like a game where they could have gotten 2 goals and didn't. But the thing that I noticed tonight is that they didn't really have that kind of like kill opportunity in front of the goal. There were, like, early in the game, they were doing a good job getting in behind and getting those cutback attempts. As the game went on and Colorado kind of adjusted to what the Quakes were trying to do in terms of running in behind that way, they started running individual runners between the center backs and then playing balls into them. That's not going to create the kind of situations that are going to really give you a game where you walk away and it's almost a for sure 2 goals. So one of those things is it's early in the season still, and they're still, I think, developing certain chemistry. You can see it in the box, but it's not all the way coming together. There were things like the Jamiro back heel, but there's no one trailing him in order to be able to get that situation. There was the ball out to Cade, but Cade kind of tries to place a ball where no one is at, and it just goes across the box, right? So those kinds of situations, like, I think it's going to take a little bit more time for the cohesiveness to kind of come in. And what instead you're getting is a bunch of like randomness in the shots that are just like, they're shots. They can go in at any time. And last game, they happened to get 2 of them in. Tonight, they happened to only get 1 of them in. It's not that it's bad shot selection. It's just that it's not like highly dangerous shot selection at this point.
I think a part of that randomness is just because Jamon Montero has felt a little bit off of it in these first 3 games. He hasn't been able to connect with the midfielders and with the front line as much as we saw him doing last season, as much as we know he can do, as much as we've been expecting of him.
Although tonight, since you were there, did tonight look a bit better, though? Because it looked a bit better on TV.
I would say it definitely looked better.
Tonight looked better, but I think that's because he had so much time and space. There was so much space for the Earthquakes in the middle. They didn't have that space against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Vancouver Whitecaps played a really solid mid-block. The Quakes just weren't getting the ball into Jamon Moore in the middle. In this game, it was really easy for the Quakes to build out of the back, to play that ball to Grezzo or Jackson Ewell to break the pressure and then move it forward. So Jamon Moore had a lot of opportunities, but sometimes it feels like he's just drifting across the field as he pleases in random spots. And so he wasn't getting on the ball in a ton of super, super dangerous situations. I'm having trouble figuring it out at this point why we're not seeing the same Jamon Moore that we saw last season, who was consistently the guy who is putting that through ball in, setting up his teammates for shots, and chief creator. He was the chief creator in the midfield last season. It doesn't feel like he's the chief creator anymore. It feels like more of the chance creation is coming from the wings in the wide area. And the people doing the distributing
that could be intentional.
And Carlos Grezzo. It feels like he's not intentional as much at all.
I feel like the intention is to let Christian Espinoza be the metronome of the team and try to drive the attack a bit. And then, when they think the defense doesn't suspect it, now we try Cade. So it doesn't feel necessarily like they're trying to create too much. And one of the reasons is you just don't see a lot of shots out of the midfielders, right? It feels like the midfielders' job is just to get the ball into the danger areas and let Espinoza, let Cade, let Jibo create something. Sometimes I don't know if that's just if that's the players or if that's just a kind of a tweak of what Luchi's doing as compared to what we saw with Cabello.
It's strange to me. If you want volume, I feel like the Quakes could have gotten more volume just by telling Jamon Moore to shoot, because there were at least 4 or 5 opportunities where he has the ball on the top of the box lined up on his right foot, where he could take that shot from the top of the box and try to curl it far post, try to blaze a shot and goal. But he's not taking those shots. He's instead opting.
There are a lot of block shots tonight. I feel like the one good thing that Colorado did defensively, and then like the only maybe good thing they did defensively all night, was they got into situations where they were blocking those shots. That's why the Quakes got a lot of corners. Almost all those situations were shots that just deflected out. In fact, the goal deflected.
I was going to say, the goal.
There's a lot of deflections tonight. So if I went back to the data, they're not going to necessarily all show up as block shots, but there's going to be a lot of deflections in the shot data tonight. So one thing they kind of did, and probably that's why Jamiro didn't pull the trigger. What about that opportunity where Jibo went down in the box? You know, it looked like a couple times there he probably should have just shot, but he kept dribbling and then ended up going down. And in the replay, didn't really look like there was much there. It looked like he kind of drug his foot in order to get the contact. But you know, those are situations where against other teams, you know, maybe some of those open up a little bit more.
Go ahead, Alex.
I think next week will be really interesting if Jamon Montero is suspended, to see how the Quakes play without him, to see how much work he's been doing behind, like that's less, you know, that's less harder to spot, that's more unseen to piece this offense together. And I think it's a bummer that we haven't seen Nico Shakiris yet, that he's still out with injury, because I think having Nico Shakiris in there as a point of comparison would be really, really helpful to evaluate Jamon Montero's performance. And also because Nico Shakiris is the kind of guy who can come off the bench in the 60th minute and pick up the tempo and help drive the Quakes forward, because he did that last season. He was doing it in preseason. And I think he has the potential to be a game changer in the midfield for the San Jose.
One thing with Jamon Montero is, like, he does a lot of work off of the ball that isn't necessarily like flashy, right? He moves around like laterally quite a bit. I know that we saw him quite a bit on the left wing, kind of picking up in spots where that kind of gave Cade the freedom to go inside a little bit more towards the box and try to work with, you know, off of Jabo, or maybe trying to find a pass off of Christian Espinoza. But one thing I really like about Jamon Montero, and we saw it like a little bit in this match, is his ability to pick out those passes, like those unexpected passes, right? Like an X factor type of player for this team. I don't know that we've seen it quite a bit yet this season, but I feel like in this match, there were those opportunities, which brings me to a question about Cade Cowell. And Alex, I was actually going to bring this to you, because Cade Cowell does create, or he finds space rather, right? That is created by the sort of pressure that when a team goes inwards to put, you know, pressure on a ball on somebody like Jamon Montero, Cade has a tendency to find that open space and latch onto a pass when you least expect it. But considering when Cade is on the ball, the decisions that he's making, that's what's standing out most, I think, to viewers, to fans. We're seeing it in the chat. A lot of people are frustrated with this play. We're hearing calls for Benji Kikanovic to get more of the minutes in these matches for the Earthquakes rather than Cade Cowell. I'm curious, Alex, what you think about Cowell's performance tonight, considering there wasn't a lot happening from his position other than finding that space and allowing for some of the other players to, you know, be affected on the other parts of the pitch.
Here's the thing that I like about Cade Cowell's performances. In these last 3 games, I actually think his off-the-ball runs have been really critical for the Earthquakes. You saw that with the goal against Atlanta United was the perfect example. Cade Cowell making a run front post that opens the space for Jeremy Abobasi to make that far post run. He's had a lot of improvement in that area, making off-ball runs in order to create,
best part of his game this season.
In order to create more room for Jeremy Abobasi, in order to create more room for Jamon Montero, coming down the left side, Miguel Chaco. So I think a lot of the off-ball work he's done is not necessarily something that's as noticeable. And so it's easy to miss that. I want to put a pin in that because he's done that really well, and I think that's made him really valuable to the offense. Of course, he still struggles with all the things that he's struggling.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're now joined by who scored the game-winning goal on tonight's match. Christian will be speaking in English and in Spanish. So go ahead and we'll start with questions from Alex Morgan. Alex, go ahead.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for joining us tonight. Congratulations on the victory and congratulations on the goal. You had 2 shots from outside of the box. One of them was tipped onto the crossbar and one of them went into the back of the net. Can you take us through both of those chances, what you were thinking, and whether it was a conscious decision to try to shoot more from distance?
Yes. In the first one, the keeper did a great job because he touched it and then the ball hit the post. And in the second one, we can see that they dropped too much inside the box and they make like a line of 5 defenders inside the box. So sometimes we had to take those shots. And in the second one, with a little bit lucky, was a good one, and we can celebrate it there.
Thank you, Christian. Next up, Jamon Moore.
Unmuted.
Hi, Christian. Congratulations, on the win and on the goal tonight. It looked like your game plan early on was to try to play combination with you on the outside, overload the wings, and find ways to get you to run in behind. It all looks very nice and creative. You guys look like you're in mid-season form. You got some cutback opportunities, which are always dangerous when you get on those. But as the game went on, they took that away from you, and you were trying to find other ways to be able to get behind the line. Talk to us about the challenges that Colorado threw at you and how you needed to react to those challenges during the game. Thank you.
Yes,
Muted.
we were practice this kind of plays in the preseason. Try to find combinations wide in the wide areas. But when we can't, like today, we had to find another ways to break that line. So today the way was shooting from far distance. But yes, we always work in different situations when the other teams drop too much and they have very tight lines, and we can combine between them. And today, I think that we did a very great game in the managing the ball side to side, try to move them, and after that, try to find the spaces in between them. So. And today, I think that was a very good game for us.
Next up, Marco Yukovic.
Hey, Christian, congratulations on your first goal of the season. Normally you're the one who's setting up your teammates to score goals. Tonight, you're the hero getting your first goal. How good does it feel being able to have that freedom where you can do whatever you want, whether it's being the playmaker or having the shots like you did tonight? You could easily have 2, maybe even 3 goals tonight. Thank you.
Yes, we always try to find the free spaces to take that kind of shoot, especially in front of the goal. Sometimes we can do it, sometimes we can't. So, but for that, it's very important that the team has to be very commitment in the movement with the ball side to side. And today I think that we...
Hola, Cristian, te voy a preguntar en español. ¿Cómo te sientes tan cerca ya a las asistencias de Shea Salinas? ¿Cómo cambia eso tu humor cada día que entras y piensas cuando entras el partido que este puede ser el partido que hago historia con San José? Gracias.
No, es algo lindo, algo que quizás no lo tengo en mente en el día a día. Solo trabajo para mejorar yo mismo, mejorar en las cosas que puedo hacer mejor para el equipo, y después los números se van dando solos, yo creo. Pero todos estos números que quizás hoy en día estoy alcanzando con el club son gracias también a mis compañeros, porque quizás mi trabajo es poder asistirlos y ellos, ¿no? Tratar de finalizar las jugadas. Entonces yo creo que es algo, como siempre digo, ¿no? Esto es un juego en equipo y ninguno puede lograr grandes cosas por uno solo. Siempre va a necesitar de los demás.
Thank you, Christian. Let's take a couple more. This question comes from Harold Gutman from the San Jose Mercury News. His question is, it's early in the season, but how important has it been to get 6 points in these first 2 home games, especially after what happened in Atlanta?
That was very special because we had to be strong at home. We had to make the rivals feel our pressure, the fans' pressure. And I think that in the last 2 games, we did a great game. We controlled the games. In Vancouver, we were losing, and then we ended winning. So that's very important to be strong at home. And I think in Atlanta, we did a great job, but as I said before, we can do anything when you receive or you concede 2 golazos like Almada did. So besides that, we correct the mistakes and we improve from that. So I think that now we are a stronger team.
Next up, Paula Maruri.
Buenas noches, Cristian. Felicitaciones por ese gol. Preguntas así, ¿cómo manejas la presión para modificar el plan de juego y tener la determinación de anotar ese golazo? Muchas gracias y buenas noches.
No, yo creo que la presión la sentimos todos porque, como dije antes, de local tenemos que hacernos fuertes, es nuestra obligación ir a buscar el partido, intentar de dejar los 3 puntos en casa. Entonces nosotros del minuto 0 que jugamos con esa presión. Obviamente que hay que saber manejarla, saber controlarla, y hoy por suerte el partido se pudo abrir de esa manera. Como dije antes, hay a veces que tratamos de desarrollar nuestro juego, tratamos de desarrollar lo que venimos trabajando desde la pretemporada, pero a veces el partido te va llevando a que busques otras maneras, ¿no? de poder doblegar al equipo contrario, y hoy se dio con un disparo de afuera del área.
And let's go ahead and take a second one from Alex Moria. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for taking another question. I want to ask about your combinations with Carlos Acapo on the right side. Tonight was his first start in Major League Soccer. So I'm wondering how it felt to play alongside him. What do you think makes you two dangerous playing together? What combinations feel good between you two?
I think we practice every day, so in the games we try to do the same thing that we did in the training sessions. We try to put it on the field in the weekend, and today I think that works perfectly. And in the before games with Paul Marie, I think that we combine very well too. So it's very important for me have those kind of right back, because they always support me from behind. They always overlap me, so they give me a lot of options to pass with them, to combine with them, and that helps for the team.
Awesome. Thank you, Cristian, and thank you everyone for your questions. And congrats on the win.
Thank you, guys.
So to me, one of the more impressive things that Christian Espinoza talked about was he said that he was thinking about how to break the lines. This is the same language that Luchi has been talking about since the beginning, right? Since preseason, when you guys were over in Coachella, it's like the same language, which tells me that the players and the coach and this system, like everything is on the same page here. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the other players are thinking the same way. But this, to me, is like what a dynamic team, a dynamic mentality looks like. Because Espinoza was thinking, what can I do to affect the change in this match? And for him, it was taking those shots from the outside, and he gets the goal, and it is the difference in this match. So I found that to be quite interesting. Jamon, I'm interested in your thoughts as to what Christian Espinoza had to say during the press conference.
I was surprised, Alex, that you didn't mention that they both played in Spain. So anyway.
Maybe something about the La Liga connection.
La Liga connection. I kind of thought you were. I kind of thought you were going to go there for some reason, and it didn't quite happen. But
I wonder if we ever played against each other. I wonder if we can. Maybe if we have some sleuths in the comments section who can help us track that down.
Yeah. So anyway, by the way, it's fantastic to get to talk to Christian. In English, he's worked very hard on it. We've known he could do it for like at least a year, but he's kind of continued to use the Spanish, even though it's like, come on, we know you can do English really well. And, congratulations to him. He's put in a lot of work. So it's from my perspective tonight, like the way that those two work together again, there looks like there is already a connection, which you have to like. And if what we're hearing about Akapo is that he's really still not 100%, he's really not yet to where he could be, and they already have this type of connection. Granted, it is Colorado, and again, we don't want to overlook any team because the Quakes have been there, last place last season. To say that it's just Colorado or it's just Vancouver, well, those are teams that if you want to be a playoff team that you do need to beat. And so the Quakes are doing that. They're taking the right steps here. At the same time, can they do it again next week in St. Louis, right? Can they do it against a Seattle or an LA team? That'll be the interesting thing to see is whether or not, that kind of chemistry as it develops and gets closer to the midseason, how much stronger it can get, and reading those different situations, knowing when Christian is going to make those types of runs, or using Christian as a decoy and maybe letting Akapo make some runs, and understanding that and getting that down, I think will be very key. One of the things that I think Paul Marie really was able to contribute last season was you could start to see that he and Espinoza at times did have that kind of knowledge about who is going to do what in different situations. It's a well-rehearsed, well-practiced type of thing, and you want to get Akapo and Espinoza, on that same type of page.
Right. I think the Quakes are really well positioned to start doing some more experimentation and to start trying things in tougher games, because they have the structure. They have the defense in order to do that. They're controlling these games. This game they controlled. The game against Atlanta United controlled. Second half against Vancouver, they controlled. When you're controlling games, you can afford to experiment a little bit more. When you're setting the tempo, when you're on top of it, then you can change the runs and add a little bit more fluidity in a way that won't make you vulnerable to the counterattack, and in a way that won't make you vulnerable at the back. So I think the Quakes are in a really, really good position because of the way that they're controlling the game. So I know they have the talent up top between Christian Espinoza, who's one of the highest values, DPs, best value DPs in Major League Soccer, between Jeremy Obasi, a guy who scored 17 goals last season, having two options on the left wing between Cade Cowell and Benji Ikanovich, Jamon Montero, Nico Chierson. They have the talent. They'll be able to figure it out as the season goes on, is my expectation.
It's going to require Jamon Montero to be playing at his best for that to happen. Like you mentioned earlier on in the show, he's had some struggles this season already in the first 3 games. But I think as the team continues to push forward and play collectively well, I think Jamon Montero nestles into that position well, again, as the season goes on. So we are creeping up to the hour mark here, and there's still a lot to talk about. So I wanted to mention, I wanted to make sure that JT Marcinkowski got mentioned on the show at least once too, because that's going to be something to look at as the Quakes go into the game against St. Louis. If he continues to be in the starting role at the goalkeeper position, he starts, he gets the clean sheet. Is it a coincidence? I don't know, but it's something.
Doing what exactly?
So that's the other thing, Jamon.
Didn't face a shot.
Yeah.
Look,
So,
just a bit of background to clarify things at the top of this conversation, because I know this has been an ongoing conversation that we've been having the last few weeks. JT did not start because of a personnel choice, because Danielle was dropped. Danielle had a thigh injury, which, according to Quakes spokespeople, made it difficult for him to kick. But he was on the bench as an emergency backup in case something happened. That's an interesting choice in itself. To me, it indicates a lack of faith in Emi Ochoa, the young goalkeeper who's third on that goalkeeping list. So setting that aside, that's why JT Marcinkowski got the start tonight. And I think you saw a lot of the reasons why JT Marcinkowski is such a good goalkeeper, because of his distribution, because of the way that he was able to get out of tight situations, to be able to be composed on the ball, quick, to find those long balls, breaking lines in behind to the opposite side of play. His distribution was great tonight, and that was a really important part of San Jose's buildup. So that was really strong. And this was a huge opportunity for him because Danielle started the season, which surprised us. And there's been some open questions about Danielle's shot stopping in his first 2 performances. We didn't get to see much shot stopping from JT Marcinkowski tonight. So I think that's going to make it an even harder decision for Luchi Gonzalez next week, because you have JT Marcinkowski, who put in a strong performance tonight, but wasn't maybe tested as much, versus Danielle, who you maybe have some questions about, but has had a lot more shots taken at him.
I feel like Danielle he would have been fine in this match. Like
a lot more shots. I think Daniel's faced 6.
Yeah, it hasn't been a lot. But the point I was going to make here, Jamon, is that yes, JT's distribution is great, Alex, but I think a lot of that is because he plays the short game. He does deliver the balls long over the top. When you have somebody running into open space like Cade Cowell, you can do that. But I think JT makes smart decisions and closer to himself. I think his numbers reflect that.
I just don't think tonight's the night where you go. I'll be honest. The goalkeepers, other than Almada putting those 2 worldies in the back of the net and against Atlanta, the goalkeepers have had precious little to do in 3 games, and that is good news for the Earthquakes. And keep in mind, the Earthquakes have entered stoppage time in all 3 games with a lead. You take your chances. You take your chances on an Almada worldie sometimes. You want to enter stoppage time with leads. That's the most important thing. That the keepers are not getting tested is a testament to how well this defense is working, how well the rest defensive structure is doing its job, and also, credit, to the entire back line. Credit. I thought we haven't said much about him because there hasn't been that much to say. But Carlos Carrezo tonight was silently very, very good. I think that's what you're looking for in Carlos Carrezo. He's one of the reasons why pretty much nothing happened, very much at all. He did a good job breaking up various situations, stopped another one of those potential counters off of a corner that got cleared out, just like he did against Vancouver. Silently had a very good game tonight and just didn't get a lot of credit because, he just did it in a very calm and silent way and got into the passing a lot better tonight than he had in other games.
I still have some lingering concerns.
I'm not saying the concerns are gone. I just feel like tonight was better.
When he's put under more pressure, I think he has a little bit of a tendency to make errors. We saw it happen in the first half tonight. The Quakes were not punished, but you can't make those errors. When he had the ball in the box with his back, the ball facing his own goal, and he gave away the ball to Colorado.
You can't make those errors.
You can't make those errors against Seattle, against LAFC.
Well. Exactly.
You can't make those. So I have some concerns about those errors. But you're
right.
May
not be able to do it against St. Louis on the road.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, St. Louis. We'll talk about that more. But St. Louis, 3-0. One of the top teams in these first 3 games in Major League Soccer.
It can be a true test.
So you can't make those errors. But with that said, I think that he's been protected very, very well by Rodriguez and Jonathan Mensah. They have been absolutely phenomenal. They've just been locking it down in the back. I think it's clear they're already the best center back pairing that the San Jose Earthquakes have had since Victor Bernardez and Clarence Goodson.
Absolutely.
I think that's 100% true. I don't think there's any debate about that at this point. The way they've been locking it down at the back, giving reassurance to the midfield, cleaning up everything has been absolutely phenomenal. And in that sense, maybe Carrezo can afford to make more errors. Maybe the midfield can afford to make more errors, be more adventurous in the build-up because they know that all of those balls will be cleaned up by the 2 center backs.
I mean, you said giving reassurance. I think it's giving reassurance to the entire team when you have a center back pairing that's this good, because not only does it take a lot of the pressure off of the goalkeeper, it takes a lot of the pressure off the other parts of the field. So when Carlos Grueso, who, let's remember, he is a new signing to this team. He hasn't had as much time to kind of like get in the mix and to the flow with this squad. It's going to allow him to get a little bit more of that time in. So then when you go into your 4th match of the season against somebody like St. Louis City, who is playing very well, then
everyone picked him to finish last. Everyone picked him to finish last in the West.
Sure there's somebody out there who's like $1,000.
I'm still. Are they good? Are they good? Are they good if you don't give them a goal every week? I don't know. I didn't see what happened today, so maybe today they earned it on their own.
Good question.
But
I
Austin
think that's
gifted
a
them
good
2
test for
goals.
Austin.
They got gifted a goal last week.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to see, will the real St. Louis please stand up, and maybe the Quakes can challenge them.
That means they're good at capitalizing on those errors, Jamon. And they're a high-scoring team. I think they're going to be one of the strongest tests that the Quakes have had for that defense so far.
I feel like the fans want to talk about Cade and Benji. Do you guys want to get into this at all?
We've kind of already gone there. And I tried to stir the pot with the goalkeeper talk. That was a direction that I wanted to go in, Jamon, but you had to throw cold water on that.
They're doing this on their own. They're running the show over here. They're doing whatever they want to do. So
yeah,
just pointing it out.
Hey, what we're creepy. Okay, we just passed the hour mark here, so there's a lot of stuff to talk about. But let's go ahead and go into the last segment of the show, which is the final thoughts, and we'll save some of this for next week as well, so we give folks something to tune into. Final thoughts. I'm going to kick it over to you first, Alex.
This was a really solid victory. I said it at the top of the show. This was a win in which the Quakes played well and got the 3 points. That's not something they've done this season. First game, they played well, didn't get the 3 points. Second game against Vancouver, they struggled a little bit more, even though they got the win. So this was a really, really solid win. This is the kind of win that you have to do in Major League Soccer. For large parts of it, it wasn't particularly pretty. I don't think that a lot of Colorado Rapids matches are super entertaining, generally, broadly speaking. But the Quakes did a good job in getting the ball out wide into dangerous areas. And if they can add some of the volume that Luchi Gonzalez was talking about in that final third, then I think they have the potential to be, a really, really solid team in Major League Soccer this season. This is setting a sort of bar for them. This is proving that they are no longer a basement dweller. I think we can take that result away from tonight. They're no longer a basement dweller in Major League Soccer. This is a team that is at least a step above, and we'll see how high they can go this season because they were clearly the better team from back to front tonight. They were able to control the game, and the way that they're playing, I think they have lots of room to grow.
Alex, always the optimist on the show. If Colin was here, I'm sure he would find something to.
Alex, the optimist. I was slammed last weekend for being too critical about that performance.
No, don't let people change you, Alex. Stay how you are.
Look,
you just be you, Alex.
Exactly.
I think we were probably more optimistic about the team than most people expected after the Atlanta game. I think that we were more critical than we expected. People expected after the win against Vancouver last weekend. But I think that makes sense because I think the team is, never as bad as they look when they lose and maybe not as good as they look when they win. And tonight it felt like it was kind of that midline performance that's telling of where the Quakes are really at this season right now in this moment.
That is telling. Jamon, what are your thoughts?
Well, same as Alex. To me, this is the type of game when you say, as an analyst, when I write the preseason articles that I do, and I say the thing that you got to change are these things, and you will get better results. This is exactly the type of game. If you outshoot the opponent 2-1, basically, you get 4 shots on goal, they get 0. I'm going to guarantee you one thing: you're going to get at least a point when you give up 0 shots on target. You're always going to get at least a point because no ball's going in the back of the net. You at least get a 0-0 draw, and hopefully you got some upside. Well, tonight, you got the upside. You got the 3 points, twice as many shots, 50% more passes, higher passing accuracy, more corners, as many crosses. I'm just going through some of the numbers here. The XG was, 1 point. What is it? 1 point. I had it here just a minute ago, and I moved off of it. Thank you for doing that. 1.5 to 0.4, 3 times the XG. This is what teams do to win home games. The Quakes fans are not used to this. We're not used to games where it's coming down to the end and it looks like, everyone's just running around like chickens with their heads cut off sometimes. Or when there's a break the other direction, everyone's just scrambling and sliding all over the box. No, this is what normal soccer looks like. Welcome to normal soccer in San Jose. It's been a long time coming for the fans. I do think if they can continue playing with this type of poise, with this type of combination play, with this type of challenging the back line. Look, are they going to win every game? Absolutely not. They're not going to win every game. This team, I still say, is a mid-table team. There are going to be better teams than Portland and Colorado, obviously, that are going to walk into this place, and their games are not going to look as easy as they do tonight. But you got the foundation right now. You got the foundation of a team that should be able to consistently get points. When you play these types of games, when you kind of put a chokehold on the game, you're challenging the back line, you're creating the opportunities, you're doing everything you need to do, and you're preventing them from doing the same on the other side. You're going to win more than you're going to lose. Now, can they do this on the road? Different question. They kind of did against Atlanta, except
They did it
in stoppage time. They did, right? They did. Overall, they did it for the majority of the game. So can you go into St. Louis and put in that type of performance again? Maybe you walk away with a point. Maybe you take a tough loss. Maybe you take a tough 1-0 loss. But that is still progress. So, we want to continue to see this type of progress on the road. And then, when you come into PayPal Park, expect that, the Quakes are going to play you tough, and they're more than likely going to walk away with the 3 points if you don't come and bring everything that you got. Tonight felt like Colorado, honestly, didn't really come and bring everything that they had tonight. The Quakes beat them to the ball all over the place. I wish I had second ball numbers and things like that, because, the Quakes were first to the ball in all kinds of situations and winning second balls in the middle. So, it's a recipe for success. And that foundation has now been laid against a couple weaker teams in the West. So now you keep doing it. And those LA teams, guess what? They're coming up. Those games against Portland, Seattle, all the teams that you worry about in the schedule, those are coming up. But the foundation now has been laid. We've seen that it is possible for this team to play well. And we've seen it now in 3 straight games. They've played well for significant stretches of 3 straight games. It's becoming a habit. It's going to be interesting to see if it stays this way.
You mentioned them winning so many of those second balls, and one thing that Luchi said during the press conference is he complimented the tenacity that this team has shown. And that tenacity needs results for it to continue to be tenacious, because that was the problem with Matias Almeida's team, is there was a lot of tenacity there, but they weren't finding the results. And what happens? You kind of just get worn down over time, and you lose the motivation to continue playing that way. And I can see this team continue over the course of the season. I can see them continue to have that tenacity, especially considering what the possibilities are. One thing I wanted to mention was, again, to go back to the defensive structure that this team showed throughout the match. Alex, you said that you haven't seen as good of a center back pairing with this team since Muma and Clarence Goodson. I completely agree. And I would even argue that the fullback positions, we haven't seen anything this significant from those positions since we had Stephen Beitashour and Justin Morrow. And I do think that this team is suffocating in the way that they are shaping and reacting to the attack. Again, looking at the way Colorado played in the attack, they just ran out of ideas every time that they got anywhere near the 18-yard box. There was nothing that they could do to get past. I mean,
the biggest thing you're concerned about is Jack Price, coming on and, making a corner, which there was a situation like Jackson Ewell had to do a bit of a clearance there and got to the ball first. But that's the only way Colorado was even really threatening tonight.
But to me, that's a sign that your defense is doing it right, that they're playing well. If it has to take that approach to playing, like that is like a last-ditch approach to getting past your defense.
You're going to lose a 1-0 game on a set piece like that on occasion. It's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And so loved what I saw from the defense during this match. And one thing that kept coming to my mind throughout as well is like, what would this team look like if they had Chris Wondolowski in his prime as an option? And I feel like this is the team that he deserved for his career, that maybe he only had for a little bit. Like, my goodness. I love what I'm seeing from Jeremy Abobasi. I think he's been fantastic. We didn't talk about him a lot this show, but he's doing a lot of those things that we were talking about that Jamon Montero had been doing, that Cade Cowell did a bit. His off-the-ball movement is wonderful. He's willing to track back on, a mistake that the team makes. He is playing as part of a whole and as part of a collective, and I think that's very important. But again, I mean, Wando deserved this kind of team behind him. And so I'm really hoping that the Quakes do something special this season, because I know that that's what he would want out of the team. So as we go,
that's so wholesome.
As we go into the end of the show here, I did want to reference quakesepicenter.com. That is our home base for the Aftershock. So make sure you give that a look. You can find our articles, the salary spreadsheet, and our Patreon. So our Patreon is the place where you can contribute to our website, to our show, and there it is at the bottom of the screen. If you are,
by the way, got some news. I think Colin is going to have an article coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
He wanted to get it out last second today, and I'm like, Colin, hold it. I think tonight's going to go okay. So I would just hold that for one more day. So if you want to celebrate a win with some coffee tomorrow morning, hopefully we're going to have a new article out from Colin Etner. I'm just going to double check with him in the morning, make sure it's all good to go. But if you are a patron, you will get in early on Colin Etner's new article. It's going to be a good one. You'll like it.
Yep. And we're also going to be keeping track of the Jamon Montero red card story. We're going to try to follow up with Luchi Gonzalez about that at midweek, and you'll be able to get access to all those midweek interviews and press conferences in the Patreon if you're a subscriber. We did not get a chance to ask the referees a pool question tonight. I inquired about that earlier tonight so we could get a sense of what they were doing, but we had missed the 2-minute window to ask the referees this question. So
it's a very tight window.
Exactly.
So
and
silly.
we're going to have
also, we're missing Robert Jonas because he's actually very good at figuring out what that window is and sneaking in those questions. So hopefully we'll get Robert back for the next one.
Exactly. So me and you have to subscribe to the Patreon to get those all the midweek updates on the Jamon Montero situation.
$2 a month, and you can get access early. If you spend $5 a month or more, you also get access to the Patreon Slack, where you can join in on all the fun discussions that go on during the game, after the game, and before the game. You can join our patrons on there for wonderful discussions. Make sure you follow us on social media at Quakes Epicenter. Is both on Twitter and Instagram. And one last thing I wanted to say before we got out of here. If you like my shirt, this is the heavy metal nonsense San Jose Earthquake shirt. A good friend of mine made this, Arky. He is on Etsy at Hella Bay Shirts. Make sure you check it out. He's got a lot of cool stuff on there. If you're interested in some of that independent work that folks are doing, wanted to make sure I shouted that out as well. So make sure you like and subscribe to our channel, and like the particular video that we're on right now. You can do that at this moment before we end the show. Make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications so you can follow us after every match. And in the midweek, as Alex mentioned, as we ask some of those questions to Luchi Gonzalez and the other folks who are involved in the Earthquakes organization. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we'll see you after the next match. Take care.